Welcome, everyone, to episode 24 of the Dance to Oneness podcast. I'm your host, Amy Shine. Today, we have very special guest, Lisen Bengtsson, with us. Joining us today, Lisen Bengtsson, for those of you who don't know Lisen, she is an access consciousness facilitator. She's also conscious horse, conscious rider facilitator. And she also has her own business selling incredible jewelry. One ring I'm wearing today that I purchased from her. She's an entrepreneur. She is a creator, and Lisen for me is very inspiring because Lisen, you've always been engaged with talking about money and business and creating business. So I invited her on today, and our title of our topic is investing in your future. So welcome, Lisen.
Thank you, Amy. Thank you so much. And thanks for the introduction. I think didn't I meet you in Ireland in one of my first classes that I had?
So Lisen was my first facilitator. First, I took Right Voice for You. So all I'd done was bars class. I had done the access bars. And then you were coming and you did one day, I think it was Right Voice for You. And I took that class with you. And then you came back and you did foundation. So you were like my pretty thick in my journey in creating more consciousness, because that foundation class is such a game changer,
Oh, I had so much fun with you guys.
Yeah.
It was also fun because it was my first time in Ireland, especially in Cork. And I do remember it very well because it was like, Ireland is so sunshine. It's so much sunshine. Why are everybody complaining?
You brought the sunshine. I think it was nice those 3 days that you were there, or 4 days.
I had a lot of fun. But yes, when I started my journey with Access Consciousness, I had a lot of issues with money. Like basically the 2 years before, I was on my own and I had basically run down my own business and money situation and creating so much basic crap that didn't work and trying to figure out how it should work and what do you do. And I came from family business, but I didn't want to do that anymore. So I was like, basically, I'm avoiding that. I'm going to find my way. And I remember the day I was really upset with myself because I knew it can be different, but I didn't know how. And I knew it was somewhere here. And I got really mad at myself. And I said, this has to change. And within 2 weeks, I did meet Dane here in a one-day class here in Sweden that he did for the first time. He did in South Sweden and in Stockholm. And that was my beginning on my journey. And I started with having big issues with money and business. I would say big issues with money because business was part of my life, but I didn't really get that those two are so connected and can contribute to each other much more than you think. But having the already stating it is an issue doesn't make it easier.
Yeah, I was a similar journey too. Like when I came to Access, I didn't have any money and I had no idea how to create it. And I didn't even know I could create money. I didn't even know money was a possibility for me. I grew up in a country where we don't talk about money.
Yeah.
And so I love that, you pick this topic, investing in your future, because it's like when you said it first, I was like, yeah, that. And then I was like, ooh, what even is that? What is it? Like, it's such a, because first of all, nobody talks about a future. That's not a conversation people have. It's not a conversation you're taught in school. Like, what future do you want to create? And then investing, like, what is that?
Yes. Well, people mention it, especially when they want to justify a choice. Sometimes they will say, I'm investing in my future. But that's not what I mean in this context. And then I saw somewhere, does it mean you have to first have the money to invest? No, it does not mean that. But you will maybe, if you want to include money in your future, that's amazing to have. But investing in your future is really looking at what you would like it to be. For me, there's like these things, we have a lot of dreams, or hopefully we dream about something. And then we look at things, how to reach it. For me, that becomes a little bit limited because there's more possible. And a lot of people look at the straightest way possible to achieve whatever they've decided they want to have. And there's nothing wrong with that, definitely not. And you can achieve it as well really quickly if you'd like to too. When I was, I've also taught NLP and worked with that too. And then you really looked at the steps to make it work. And for me, it got so boring because I already knew the steps. And then I was like, oh, but I don't want to do it now. So it was very interesting to see myself looking at things where I know the way, it won't really work to expand it into a very different future. And future is, for me, yes, it's energetically. Yes, there's physical things because we're here on the planet. But it's not necessarily, oh, I want this car or I want that specific house or in that country. That is allowed to be there too. But what future do you desire? And are you willing to invest? And what does investment mean? I think that's a topic we can, or one word we can really dissecate a little bit and look at.
Yeah, what does investment mean?
So yes, here for me, it's a little bit of looking at, because it will be different for everybody. But if I, for example, want let's say 5 years or 6 years ago, I wanted to be traveling much more. I was already traveling a lot. And I didn't want to be dependent on one country that I was, if I was creating classes and things like that. So I was looking, okay, how can I create a living that supports the way I live? That was on the road, different countries. And I was looking at moving to Spain over the winter. I did that, but I wasn't done with how I wanted to create it or financially. I started doing it to see what that would look like for me personally. So that was just a choice I made because I was looking at the future for me. And I knew I need to see that more practical, but that's just one way of doing it. And then it was like really being in the question, what is required here? What can I choose today to create a future that I would like to be living? And that for me is not trying to define every step along the way. The second time, was it the third? No, the second time I was in Spain was very interesting because systems that already started showing up. People were starting to demand things that were supporting my living. And I wasn't even trying to build up, like, I had an online business, yes, but I wasn't even trying to make it the thing. Like today, everybody is really, really going for the online business. For me, it was one of the things I was doing. But I also saw that had an energy that inspired me. And then the demand came also with my clients. So almost the demand of my clients created, for example, a year's online business for a whole year. I didn't ask for it. They asked for it. And I was like, okay, there's so many people asking me to do this a longer time. Okay, I'll go for that. But I wasn't trying to figure out, oh, let's do 1 year. Then the financial situation will be much better. I didn't even have that plan. After half a year, I looked at it and I was like, oh, this is really supportive. Oh, this is awesome. So what could you look at and what could you ask and not always come to conclusion what will be the best way? So you can invest in a lot of things. For me, it's not only material things, but you can. For example, I have a lot of clients now, they want to invest in gold. They ask me, and I'm not surprised because I work with gold and jewelry and all that, but a lot of people are asking, Lisen, should I invest in gold and where do I do that? And I'm like, I think I need to have a call about that because that's a very interesting topic. A lot come from a little bit of a conclusion that our monetary system won't work. And then there's the other part where, yes, it is. If you have cash, it does have an easier way of keeping a value than, because our monetary system of bills and coins and all that, currencies, they fluctuate, they do change. And gold never drops in that way. It goes a little bit up and down, but it's been going up for a while. So I understand the thing. And over the hundreds of years that have existed, that is a topic. I just saw a film where was it First World War? Somebody's leaving money with somebody in Singapore. And he says, here's money so you can live for a year because they couldn't come with them to America. Invest at least half in gold. And I'm like, of course, their currency might just drop. I'm like, of course. And just that little thing, I was like, that's always been there with us. So it was a very interesting thing. So where would we like to go with this topic, Amy? I'm like,
well, I love it. I was going to go next to but it's interesting that people are not talking about gold as much and everyone's talking about cryptocurrency, But I think with that, like just with the investing piece, it's like you got to look at what's fun for you. And that's one of the things I learned a while back with investing. Like we can talk about investing in our future, but actually if someone says to you, you should invest in gold or you should invest in crypto or you should invest in that. And if it's actually not fun for you, I found it doesn't actually make you money. Like I've invested in things that people, like, cause my husband's really into stocks. And so a couple of years ago, he was really into these type of stocks that I had zero interest in. Like when he would talk about them, I'd be like, just check out, because I had like no interest in what he was talking about. I would just smile and nod. But he convinced me to invest in this company that I did not only did I not have any interest in the company, it wasn't something that I wanted to support in the world.
Okay. Yeah.
It was like a weed company, and I don't want to support weed. I don't like think I don't want to like that's not something I'm not like, yes, cannabis, that needs to be in the world, it's like and so, but for him that was something he was interested in. For me it wasn't. In a way, I took this advice, I lost the money. So it's like I learned the hard way with that was that, like, if you're going to invest in something, like, it has to be something that you're interested in, because you can say to me, oh, Amy, invest in cryptocurrency, but if I have zero interest in it, there's like an energy where I'm not even nurturing that then,
No, you're not attentive either of the changes. Because when I'm seeing the things that I have not, here's one thing I also look at investment. If I'm looking like practical investments, there's things that I also learned from Tatissa, is to be able to really make your own choices. So when you invest in somebody else is investing in it, or you're in bigger groups, all that, they take care of everything. You're not really in charge of your money anymore. That's one energy where I'm like, when I looked at it, I'm like, oh yeah, this is where a lot of people wish somebody else takes care of it, and you just you receive the benefits. It does work sometimes, but I also see that in that case, you often do not put into your energy there either. And if you have a different awareness, it's not as easy to change your choice in that moment. So look at things where you're able to change, because your awareness might be brilliant, even if you're not used to it. There might be somebody who knows, like, I've done this for 10 years. Your awareness gives you the information earlier, or you're just attentive, that you can make a different choice than other people can. And this is where we don't always need long, like, know a lot, but yes, interested, yes. Because interested, yes, because that will help you being connected to it, supporting it, contributing to it, and also receiving information. Anything I'm not super interested in, I know that I'm not willing to, I'm just like, it's a little bit of an avoidance in that energy.
Yeah. I love how you brought up that energy too, where it's like you just give someone your money and then hope that they take care of it. Like, yes. Again, there's that energy of like not actually showing up for your reality, for your financial reality, and for your future. Because it's like I done that too, where I put money in stocks and just hope they make money, and not engage with them, not be present, not check in, not actually contribute my energy to the growth of them. Because it is that thing of that wishful, oh, I just hope it makes me money. And if it does, great.
So let's look at stock. I'm very intrigued because I haven't started yet. And it's something I definitely want to be more involved with. And I'm also looking at currency exchange stocks, because I was like, that's an interest. There's so many different areas, huh? But if you look at this energy, that your energy can make a difference. And I do know we have different interests, but are you willing to allow money to grow for you? Or would you be willing to put in some energy so it can? Because it's almost like it can't breathe without you. This is, sometimes I say like that, because if you're putting energy, it can breathe and it accumulates easier.
Yeah. I mean, it's also like, you sell jewelry, right? And we talk about it, like you can invest in jewelry, and like every time I wear this ring, I look at it and I'm like, oh my God, you're so beautiful. And thank you so much. And it's just like, and then I go out in the world and people talk to me about, like, they comment on the ring, and then I talk about the ring, and, and it's like, I'm constantly like giving energy, and it's constantly giving to me. But there's this energy when it comes to, because I love the ring.
Yes, I know. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. There's this energy like with some other things where it's like with crypto, it's like, what? Like what? Like, and I mean, I do have some money in crypto, like actually my husband has, but he's actually interested in it. Yeah. Like, he reads up about it, and so one of the companies I actually invested in was, I missed the boat on Zoom. Zoom went public. Yeah. My husband told me Zoom. One day he turned around to me in the coach. He goes, do you know what Zoom is? And I'm like, yeah. Like, every access facilitator in the world uses Zoom. Like, that's a platform we all use. Like, and he's like, they're about to go public. And I'm like, oh, that would be a good investment. Yeah. And in a way, we ended up not investing. I ended up telling people about it. Some people invested, and then COVID hit, and the company quadrupled and they keep growing. And anyway, so from that, I realized like I actually started investing in companies I use. Like we use Slack is a company we use a lot. So I invested in them because it's like I know the company and I use the company. And so it's like you said, it's that energy of like wearing the ring, like being grateful for the ring, using Zoom, like actually engaging with things I'm invested in.
Yes. That is amazing. That is really, really cool. One energy also I was also looking at is when I buy things, or let's invest money, because that's a topic at the moment. I also reach out a little bit further, like 30, 40, 50 years into my future. So it can also start contributing to creating the future I desire. And when I say the desire, it is not written down in stone how I'd like to have it. For me, there is this energy where it's much more undefined for me, but it includes this ease, joy, where I can choose whatever I like whenever I like it. And I have created a financial situation where I have a lot of ease, where it's like, it's so much fun not to be dependent on something that I was a lot before. And also I'm going like, what if I wasn't dependent on any system, on any country, on any business, but could create even more? And I don't try to figure out what it is, but I look at that energy, and then whatever I go into, whatever business or things I buy for my business, I ask about that energy. And when I get a yes, I go for that. So even in the jewelry, I look at that at the moment, and I'm like, okay, I want this energy to be there with everything.
What do you ask, Lisen?
What?
What do you ask? What question do you ask?
Well, it's so funny because what I basically do is I look at the energy where I'm heading, and I ask, yes, no, is this the energy that I'm heading for? So is this, and I could go like, does it create a greater future? Mm-hmm. But I also see in my head very often when I ask too much, it gets a little bit too much activated in my head. Yes. So and this is where I'm almost like looking at, like, for example, we're talking today now too. So there's an energy where I look at the future. Wow, it's this expansive, fun living and ease and choosing that. And it's not like I have to have millions on my bank account. I have to have 3 apartments or houses and yachts. It's not that, but it has the ease and the luxury and the fun and the wealth. And then that energy I'm connected to. So sometimes I just look at things. Is that going to expand it? Yes. I'm like, oh, then has that energy. It goes like, oh yeah, then yes. Sometimes I do ask more questions, especially when the energy, there's things when I invest where it also comes to a limit where I have some points of views, where I might not want to lose it, or I don't feel as comfortable doing it. Then, especially then, I was like, okay, I start talking to whatever that is. Hey, are we going to create more? And when it's for me, like talking to you, I talk to things, I talk to my investments, I talk to everything. And there is an energy that is involved in that I can receive from. But the more I try to figure out how it should look, the less usually I notice afterwards, like, oh yeah, I thought this is going to be really good. No, that was a wishful thinking again. But it's maybe okay. It's a good one, but it's not that. For example, the ring you bought is one of the things I bought where it was a different investment, because it costs a lot more to invest in it. I call it the magic ring. I have a couple of designs where it's like, it is. There you go.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful opal. When I look at it, I'm like swimming in that opal. And that's for me almost like the energy of the future I'd like to have. It's sparkly, it moves, it changes, it shifts. It's never the same. It's not boring. It's that ring, I had it for a while myself because I love it so much. And it always gave me a different perspective. I'm like, that's how I want my life to be. Okay, cool. That is the energy.
I love that. And so when you went to invest in this ring, because what came up for you?
Because it was a very different, so I'm used to certain different styles and designs, and there was different stones. It was, I had to put in a lot more money to buy it, and I wasn't used to selling it. If I've sold a couple things, I know there's certain like, oh, I know there's an interest for this. And it hit a little bit like how much I put in one ring instead of buying 4 other ones and then selling the 4, and then I would make more money, blah, blah, blah. But this one had a different energy. And it's like, what is this? This is different. And this is cost a little bit more. So it just brought it. But the interesting thing is, after I bought it, it was like my world's expanded and more things showed up in the same energy. I'm like, sometimes just like a door opener.
Yeah.
And this is not logic. Like, it's a ring. And in my old business as an antique dealer, it's like, yeah, it's a great ring. It's good investment. You sell it, da, 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 da. You're like, it's more like, and for me, it's a living with it. So I have some of my jewelry before I let it go to another person, also allow it to contribute to my life. And it gave me a lot of awareness of conclusions I still had that I didn't know I had. Willing to go and jump further, investing in things. So I was like, oh, what if I was willing to invest 10,000 euros in a ring? What would that create? And so I stretched myself using everything I choose. I use and ask questions to expand the possibilities for next step, a next step, a next step. So
I love that the piece you said about stretching yourself, because that's really like what comes up. You know, we get comfortable with our choices. So whether you say you make, whether you make like $1,000 a month, you make $10,000 a month, or you make $1 million a month, right? You get comfortable in what you're used to, and then you get comfortable in what you can spend, and you get comfortable in what you can invest in, and what choices you can make. Are you get comfortable flying economy, or you get comfortable flying first class? Why is it any different? Like, I look at that sometimes, I'm like, like a millionaire is no different from someone who makes thousands. It's just they have a different figure in their bank account. Correct. So it's, you're saying like, okay, I was comfortable investing in this, and then like you kind of have to push it out a bit and go beyond that comfort zone. And then when you did, it's like, okay, well, what now would it be like to invest in a 10,000 ring or 20,000 or? But it's like, it's just a figure change.
Yes, right? It is.
But I noticed that too, like with access classes, when I first started taking them, you start with the bars. That was uncomfortable. It was $200 at the euro, 250. That was like the biggest deal for me. And then I chose it. And then I was like, oh, like that class was worth millions to me. There's no price I could have put on it.
No, really.
And then you keep going. And then like there's classes that were beyond for me for a while, like a 7-day, some SOP, some of the bigger classes were such a beyond. And then when I finally chose them, it opened up more choices. So it's like investing isn't just also about like, it's also like you said, investing in you.
Yes.
Every time I take an access class, I invest in me, or I book a session. I go get some body work, I go get a massage. But it's interesting how we become comfortable in what we will choose.
Correct. That is a very good conversation. Please, I'm so happy you mentioned it, because I think a lot of people really just want to reach a certain amount that they've decided that is, I think in the whole world, I see it a lot in Germany or German-speaking countries, is this million thing. We have to reach the million. That's so significant for people, and everybody's marketing so much with all their online classes. You go for 3 figures, 4 figures, 5 figures, I don't know, the million. And I was like, wow, it's just so much brainwashing almost, because you don't hit usually from a couple thousand per month to $1 million. It's usually people will always avoid the $1 million because it's so significant. But if you like having targets or any goal, like set something that is reachable within maybe the next couple of years, just to also experience what it looks like when you reach something different. I've seen all the things I've reached platforms. It becomes like a new platform you're on. And then I'm like, oh, this is fun to be on. Great income. And then what else? And at some point, it's not about the money anymore at all. And for some people, it is a lot. A lot. And this is where I like the conversation for me goes more to wealth, because that's the way of living, and it's not about proving. And also, I think maybe we can talk a little bit also about the energy where people might want to confuse themselves, where it's about spending and not investment. Because I see, I have a lot of online classes about money and business, a lot in German. I'm going to go over more to English now.
Yes, we need you.
Yeah, I know people are, and it's so funny every time I post like German class, is that one coming in English too? I'm like, maybe at some point, but now I'm there. I'm just like, yes, it's time thing. But it's so funny. What I was going to say what they all do is when they start making more money, because they do often, because it becomes more easy and more magical and fun, is then they also add their spending. And
Yeah.
it's just like the same. And then at the end, you don't really have more money. And I was like, if you want to change your financial situation, you also want to create a little bit of gap, whatever that means. Because it's so easy to be a spender. Like, it's the easiest thing. It's what we learn. It's also what we see. We're not being taught that money can create money, or having money is a different energy than I have money and then I spend it. Most people aren't even comfortable having money. So it's harder also to create bigger amounts of money, because they will just get rid of them much quicker than they did before.
Yeah, that's an interesting area to look at too. Yeah, there is that point of view. Well, the more money you make, the more your expenses go up, you know?
Yeah. And they can, of course.
Yeah.
And they will most likely also, because you might want to have more ease with some areas. But it's interesting. For example, when I started flying business, I got it upgraded as a gift. And the first times was like, I know, either with points, or the first one was a gift from SAS. And I was like, what happened here? And it was just a question, and it created an upgrade. And I was so curious why this thing is with business class. And after that flight, I was like, oh, I get it. This is much better for my body, my everything. I feel great when I land. This is different. Of course I want business. But for me, it was just like, it's a luxury thing and it costs more and it's not really worth that. And I was like, oh, my body. I noticed how different it was by my body. That I was willing to invest in. And that changed a lot for me.
Well, so that's important to look at, because you are willing to invest in that because your body's a priority to you.
Yes.
And that's something I see a lot. Like, that's where you have to look at what is a priority to you. Because I look at that. So there's things that my husband will invest in that I would not. And there's things I invest in that he would not.
Yeah.
Me, I'm always investing in my body, because for me, if I don't have ease in my body, that is something I'm changing right away. I'm not willing to live with unease in my body.
Yes.
So that's a priority to someone else. Body is not a priority.
True.
So they will not invest in their bodies.
Yes. And it's fun. It's fun to see what priority you have, because when my priority became that, I was willing to start generating. So that became something I also could afford, because I also saw what it cost. I was like, are you kidding me? Those are very different flights. And especially when I was still there, I'm like, I could not afford it with these. I could pay for it, but then I would empty a lot of my account. And I was like, no. And then it really, like, when you look at the amounts, you're like, that are different. But then I was like, okay, I'll create this. I'll have this. When, I don't know, but I will have it. So that became something I was willing to create as my living, no matter what. And it didn't matter when. I didn't have to prove it has to be tomorrow, or I have to be successful now to show everybody I'm flying business. No, business I love. I mean, I have never paid so much for a hotel room, but I'm willing to pay for a flight. So I've been joking with myself. I'm like, interesting that I pay from, I don't know, I think the cheapest has been maybe 1,600. The most expensive business, maybe over 3,000 something euro. And it's like, it's for a flight. It's like, it's a flight. And if I look at a hotel room, yeah, a couple of €100. I don't know what my most expensive, I don't know. But I've never gone to €1,000 for a night. And I was like, but that's something I could be doing if I didn't have a difference in the judgment of what that means.
Yeah.
That has been so hilarious. And this is where I have fun with my brain, seeing where there's still some, I value something more, or I have a point of view here, you do it, here you don't. I was like, what if there is no difference in that? What if that was also a natural way of choosing and was available for me? I remember starting when I looked at Access, I was like, oh, I want to have €100 as easy as I'm paying with €10. And then when I was at that energy, oh, I want €1,000 to be as easy as when I'm paying something for €100. So I kept on challenging myself every time I hit something. Oh, this is comfortable and easy. Then I hit the next one and the next one. I'm like, that's something that has inspired me moving forward, but not from the fun of it and the joy of it. And I like, for example, I was this morning I was exchanging money to Swedish money, and I love sometimes having a bunch of money. So there was a lot. This is the bunch. It's not much in this time. It's like this. But I wanted lots of bills. So I was like, do you guys have 20 bills? And these I often give my clients because it's Astrid Lindgren on and Pippi. Pippi Longstockings on them. So I just asked, hey, can I have lots of these? Because I really like them. And I was like, oh, I want full of them. So I play with money to create whatever energy is the most fun for me.
I love that.
So this is also last foundation I gave everybody. I sent them everybody a 20 krona bill just for the fun of it. And they were also surprised they received money from me. And they're not expensive, if I say like that, but it was so much fun. Yeah. So what fun can we have with each other with money as well?
And in America, there's a big thing now where a lot of people don't have cash.
Oh, well, I'm in the country that wants to become cash free as the first in Europe.
Oh, okay.
I'm doing my best to keep cash.
Yeah, I know. I am too. I always carry cash with me. And I purposely pay cash all the time when I can,
Yeah. You know what? I by mistake, I said something in a store because lots of stores are cash free here. And there's been a little bit of a movement against it. So they leave the shop if you can't pay cash. So there's quite a few that's choosing it. So once I said, do you take card and not only do you take card and not only cash? And it's the reverse I usually ask. Yeah. And then I said it in that way. She looks at me and it was like a brain fuck. And I'm like, oh my God, I said it the wrong way. Yeah, we take cash. I'm like, this was funny. I'm going to say this because people don't, like, it was so unreal what I said. Yeah. And I was like, I think I'll continue with this because we need to get this. I do love the bills. They're fun. I love touching them. I love playing with them. And it's something also, whatever you want to have more of in your life, what if you also include it in your life? Like now. I don't know how often I receive this energy or this question with an energy. I have to first wait to do something for my future. When I have money, I can do it. And I think it's for many very normal. I mean, a stock is not expensive. Jewelry is not expensive. You can buy where you are, whatever amount. I know if I ask Amy, well, she might not have been able to buy that ring directly because it's not like but there are rings that are in a certain category that you can start with or whatever you want to buy.
Well, you can invest, like you can put a €50 or $50 or $100 into the stock, and so it's interesting because I put up on Facebook, like, what's your question? I wanted to see if anyone had questions for today, and one person answered. So, and Barbara, she asked, like, well, she honestly, she was like, well, what is does investing mean money? And do I have to wait until I have enough money to have the future I desire? Which was interesting because it was that energy, like, I can't invest unless I have money, right?
Exactly. And that is the first step where you're stopping what you could be creating. And even if, let's say you would like to invest in stock and you would like to start with a couple hundred, you could just put away a smaller amount every month if we're talking about money. And then what I do as number one in anything I would like to start doing in a direction of anything is start learning something, reading, looking on YouTube. I start educating myself. And the funniest thing I can tell you guys is I educated myself in areas a couple of years ago where I didn't start, but then they just showed up and I was like, oh, now I'm happy that I read all of that before. And that's the funny part, being curious of things that could create more. But we're trying to figure out, I invest money, I receive more. That's for me, that's one area of investing in your future. For me, it can also just look at, where would you like to live? How would you like to live? I like living in different countries. That's something that makes me super happy. Or moving around, but I also like staying in certain countries a little bit longer. That makes me happy. So it might change in the future, but then I look how to create that with more ease. And when I talk to random people around here, they always look at me, oh, so you're going to buy an apartment? I'm like, no, not necessarily. So the way of instituting, creating that or living does not mean I have to own it all. I could, yes, and it's something I look at as well, but it doesn't have to. I invested in a lugar. And I have at least a month or more free every year. I'm like, wow, that's going to be easy to stay in Costa Rica over a month every year, at least. And I'm sure I'm going to stay more. But this is where I'm like, oh, they already have an energy that I like. And then looked at, well, I stayed three winters in Spain, and that was absolutely possible to do without having a place. I was moving around all the time. I was renting different places just to see where I wanted to live. So it was either Airbnb or hotels, and I've never ever had so high costs on my living. And I was like, wow. And then when I did go to Sweden again, I didn't have an apartment, I had nowhere to live. And I was like, oh, what monthly cost would I like to have? And looking back at what I had, it was so cheap, my rent. And I was like, yeah, but that's my past. This is now. I can afford a totally different living because look what I've been paying every month. So this is where if you start looking at different things, new things will show up. But I also don't try to find out how to, for example, live the cheapest or how to get the least amount of costs. For me, living is an energy that is alive, constantly breathing with me. For me, it's like everything's alive with me. If we say my apartment or like, of course, my plants are living, but everything's alive and everything can contribute to my life as well. So, for example, personally, I love everything I have in my home. If I don't, it goes away again. Bye-bye. And then I invest in something else or buy something and that I really, really enjoy having, and my body gets happier. So then I know I'm also going to be doing different things when I'm happy. If I don't like where I'm, for me personally, the optic or design or whatever I see is very important for me. This is also very different for everybody. But that's why I pay quite a lot for hotels. But I also know when I'm happy with where I live, I have a different life and I choose differently and my energy is different. And I was like, I'll pay for that. And I know I'm not cheap in that way, but I've also been willing to build it up from the beginning and also always pushing me and knowing my costs as well. So I don't try to choose to have high costs to, oh, then it will work out. No, I look that it works financially too, and that I don't make my life horrible the next couple of months due to one choice. So,
yeah, that's really important. Thanks for saying that. Like, you don't just like, oh, I'm going to pay all this money for a hotel and hope the universe takes care of me and hopes I'll be okay. You're pragmatic too. And you look at, what am I creating? You know, will this be ease? Will this create greater?
Yes, definitely. First time I went to Spain, I think I had decided to be there 2 months. Let's say it was 2 months. And I was looking at, I wasn't renting out my place. So I looked, okay, if I was staying in a hotel every night, it's a little bit cheaper there, but I don't remember if I had looked at like 100 euros per night, and I looked at 2 months, and then I was traveling somewhere else too. And I had a dog with me with a dog sitter I needed too. And I had a car, I needed a car. So I just started looking at the financial situation. If there was no really income in these 2 months, would I make this work? I knew there was income, but a little bit less. And I looked at it and I looked at, can I pay for this? Yes. Am I willing to pay for it? And then when I got yes on both, I'm like, okay, then yeah. But I wasn't willing to go, no, I'm not willing to pay for it, and be a little bit greedy or feeling that this is too expensive for me or I will not like it. I was willing just to be honest with myself as well, but also looked at the scenario where it may be something I was not traveling or not making so much money in those months, and making sure that I'm taken care of. And that's something I prioritize a lot, so I don't put myself in situations where it becomes really, really strange or bad or crisis. And not even for an access class, I'm willing to look at things. And I remember one of my I think it was my first facilitators class going to Australia. I did take a loan in the bank, but that was like a business loan, and I paid it off very quickly. And I looked at it as a business, because then I was setting up my business. And so for me, it's a very different if I'm investing in a business thing or I'm spending as a private person. Those are different for me too.
Yeah. And I like what you said, like, you don't put yourself in crisis for anything or anyone. And that's actually one of the things I've started to look at lately too. Like, am I including me in my choices? And if I was truly caring for me here and making me a priority, what would I choose here? You know, and sometimes it is a kinder choice not to choose whatever it is, or not to put that on the credit card.
Yes. And I'm in a country where you don't buy so much on credit. And I grew up with that from my parents as well. They had some amazing good things, and they had things where they had their things with money. But one thing was always willing to know that you can afford it. And investments in antique business, you had to look also money, but you could definitely make a loan, but then it had to be a business loan. But personally, I put very little on credit because I don't want to be paying off things that I already have. That's never the most fun energy. You can do it short time, perfect, but you have to be willing to be clear on it, what you're choosing. And I don't mind if I'm doing it before or after. I don't mind that energy at all. But I do see people, I have my credit card, or I have blah, 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 or I can, I don't know, anybody else pays than you. And I was like, oh, what would happen if you're willing to 100% own your choices, and also willing to see that you're willing to create something and not to be dependent on a spouse or on anybody else. You can receive from them, absolutely, and you can contribute to each other amazingly. And this is where it really can go like bizarre, amazing, like it can grow so much with couples. And also willing to be kind to yourself. If you do split up in a couple of years, what are you creating so that is ease financially as well, and also for the future, so that both are included in the future, no matter if you're together or separated.
I love it. There's so much in this.
It's a different topic. That's a different topic.
Yeah. So, Lisen, if people like want to find some classes with you, like I know you do a lot in German. Have you got any classes coming up in English?
No, but there will be in the next 2 weeks. There will be set up more. I'm doing a little bit of tour in Europe now, so I'm going to France with the Conscious Horse Country Rider. Those are English, but online there will be coming up soon. Yes, there will be.
You do classes on business, money, investing, like cash. You do classes on all that, right?
Yeah, those are some of my favorite topics.
Yes, you like yeah, I know. That was like why I like being around Lisen. Even like I met Lisen just recently, like in Puerto Vallarta for a day, and I was like, oh, I love being around Lisen because she just like talks about money and she has such a joy with it. And also even just in communicating with you, like you were like educating yourself about like how to get money from America to your bank account. And, you know, I told you about Zelle and you're like, oh, what is that? Like you're so curious. That's what I got. I love that.
Thank you for that one because I hadn't activated yet. I'm like, oh boy, I missed one thing.
Yeah, you're like, another way of receiving money. Great. You know.
How many more ways are there and how much more ease? So, Amy, if you had 10 ways of 10 systems that would allow you to receive money from everywhere with total ease. Like, this is where I'm like, if a system isn't super easy, find other ways. They might be not active for a while and then they hit in. I'm like, oh, I didn't think that these accounts would be so helpful now. But if I go to Mexico and US, they are. And before they were too, but they've been like sleeping. Oh, now I can activate them again. Cool. So I start wherever I am. I look at what are the possibilities here. What can they contribute now and in the future? I mean, I started when I opened one account when I was in America. I was like, oh, I might have a lot of classes. I'll go into the bank. And I opened a bank account. And I was like, oh, I just made that work. And so, but how did you do? I just went into the bank and asked.
That's yeah, because some places don't allow you to open a bank account unless you're a citizen and stuff. And
no. I know.
Yeah. And so like whatever you created a couple of years ago, like that might not even be possible right now, but you were creating for the future, you know, like,
yes.
So thank you for that. Cause you know, I have accounts in Ireland and I've had to just keep them open, you know, like you said, you might not be using it right now, but what are you creating for the future?
Oh yeah, I mean, if you want to, there's a great possibilities of increasing money in Ireland. I'm even intrigued myself in that area. So don't close up.
Don't close.
You might want
to. Thank you. I love that question because that's something we like all the listeners could just start playing. Like, what 10 ways of receiving money could you actually introduce into your life today? Like, how can people pay you? Are you set up to receive money? Yeah. What different ways are you set up? And what else could you add to receive more money? Like what other ways could you receive money?
Yes.
I love that.
Yes. And that's only one way of business, but I love the creation part. And money is allowed to contribute to every creation I'm involved with. It doesn't have to generate directly, but it will because I love that money shows up. So it's almost like, yes, let's take them, bring them with us and have a fun thing and allow them to generate and allow them to create with you. But they don't always have this energy. Well, I think there's a different also, I love them being around me too. So they can come, they can go, but they will also stay with me. So this is where it's all playful, and I enjoyed seeing you again after so many years, Amy. So Mexico, we'll have a lot more tours.
Yes. Yeah. Thank you so much for coming on today, Lisa. And let us know what you have coming up. I included your website, Lisen Jewelry Box.
Oh, thank you.
Do you have another website for your Access classes, or are they all on there?
Yeah, they're all on Access on the Access website. There will be a website soon, but I have not made that my priority yet.
Well, people can find you anyway. So you're Lisen Bengtsson on Facebook, and you can go to, Access Consciousness and find Lisen there, and you can check out all her jewelry on the website above. Lisen, what is it? Lisen's Jewelry Box.
Jewelry Box, and on Instagram is the most updated.
Go to her Instagram. You will be like inundated with beautiful jewelry in your feed. Like Lisen's jewelry in my feed is just like lights up my day. It makes Instagram work going on. So,
thank you. Thank you so much. And thanks for inviting me, Amy.
Yeah, I'm sure you'll be back for more. We have lots of more. I want you to come back and do the 10%.
Oh, yes, please. I get goosebumps.
I know.
I love 10%.
I know. I love talking about the 10% too. So that's actually a show we haven't done. So we might have you back on to talk about the 10%.
Please.
Yes.
Please.
So thank you, Lisa. Thanks everyone.
Thank you.
We're back again.
Thank you.